No, it's been truly amazing the way the Lord has led us, and these experiences and meetings that none of us could have expected, and that are all moving in the same direction. And it's a direction of the Lord, and it's the direction towards his coming in glory. You know, in the epistle to the Romans, it speaks in chapter 11 about the fullness of Israel. This was, if their fall is riches for the world and their failure riches for the Gentiles, how much more their fullness. See, and this is, there's the promised fullness, that's a prophecy of Paul, there's a promised fullness of Israel. And later in the same chapter, in 25, he speaks about the fullness of the Gentiles. That this hardness that has come over part of Israel is only for a time. It will be until what? Until the fullness of the Gentiles. So there's a fullness of Israel and a fullness of the Gentiles. And this is what we see happening under our eyes. This issue faces us with huge questions. It faces us with huge challenges, but these are the deepest challenges. You know, for me, one of the key things has been that this whole process, it's like I'm understanding the whole of the scriptures for the first time. I'm seeing the unity of the Bible, the unity of the two testaments, how everything has meaning. I realize how before I was operating off part of the Bible. And I think we'll ask the other brothers now to share something of what they have experienced as challenges to their way of thinking, and the light that we're receiving from understanding the scriptures in the light of this plan for the full reconciliation of Jews and Gentiles in the one body. So maybe Johannes, you would like to say something about what you've learned about the olive tree, because this is an important element from Romans 11. The olive tree, the image of Israel and the church, the Gentiles grafted into the olive tree.
I have to say that my encounters with the Messianic Jews dramatically changed my understanding of the church. And it was by the deeper reflection of Romans 9:11, and even more so by the image of the olive tree, which is used in chapter 11. But not only the image of the olive tree, it's the whole mystery of Israel, which is presented in these 3 chapters. And it's a shame that in church practice, we hardly get preached about these 3 chapters. Even in my theological studies, these were the 3 chapters left out of all of our theological training. And you probably have hardly ever been preached on Romans 9 to 11. But Romans 9 to 11 will reveal to you a total different understanding of the church. And the most important part of it is this image of the olive tree Paul uses to describe how everything belongs together. And he says, with this image of the olive tree, first of all, he says, there is a calling of Israel by the sovereign God not to be questioned by us. God has called this little tiny people group there, if you like it or not, to be the transmitter of all the main blessings in the world. And they remain this. They remain this even a large part of them is still in blindness towards the gospel. But God has not taken away their calling to be the main player of salvation history. Secondly, the image of the olive tree tells us that we all belong together and they are not two separate things, the Jewish people and the church. This is a lie. Because there is only one tree, and the tree is Jewish. And in this tree, and this tree has a root, and the root of the tree are the patriarchs, the promises, the covenants, and none of this has been revoked by God, even though Israel has not accepted the Messiah yet. And then this tree goes on, and in the middle of the tree, there is the Messiah, and the Messiah is not anybody, it's a Jewish man. And Jesus, as a Jewish man, died on the cross as a Jewish man. He resurrected as a Jewish man. And he sits at the right hand of the Father as a Jewish man, doesn't he? And he will be there a Jewish man for all eternity, doesn't he? Okay. So, and then there are the branches. Now, there are the natural branches. The many Jews who are blind for a season. They are broken out, says Paul, but only for a season. They wait to be brought into the tree again. But then there are those natural branches who are in life with the Jewish tree, those who believe in the Messiah, the Messianic Jews. And so the olive tree is very much alive. It's still a Jewish tree. And to all of our surprise, there is another group of branches, and they are not naturally coming from this tree. They come from somewhere else. But they are grafted into the Jewish tree to be in the full relationship with all the blessing of Israel. And not being in the full relationship with all the blessing of Israel means not really being the full blessing. That's the problem. Now the question is this: how could we ever believe in church history that we, the Gentiles, are able to replace Israel? However could we come to the point to think that we are the better Israel? However could we come to think that all what was before is just the image for the real thing, and that's us? God never intended that. Never intended that. In fact, it's the other way around. From God's perspective, we, the Gentile believers, and now this is a little bit tricky what I say, we, the Gentile believers, who are part of the olive tree, who are grafted in branches, have a place in salvation history because we are related to this Jewish olive tree. We are redeemed by a Jewish Messiah. The redemption from the Jewish Messiah is preached through a Jewish gospel. And we only can understand this Jewish gospel correctly if there are Jewish believers who give us the full insight into it. Because without the Jewish believers on our side, we lose the Jewish hermeneutics. Big problem. So that means and this is really critical, can we live with the fact that Gentile Christianity is equal when it comes to redemption, fully participates in all of the grace, but not separated from the tree? Now, by the grace of God, we survived the centuries of separation. And this is due to the grace of God alone. But now is the time of grace. And God is bringing this unity back. And we have to speed up to do everything necessary to make this unity real. I remember one important moment in the dialogue. It was the only meeting when we had two cardinals present, Cardinal Cotier and Cardinal Schönborn, because Schönborn took over from Cardinal Cotier the leadership of the dialogue. And at this particular meeting in Vienna, a very, very good Messianic theologian, Mark Kinzer, presented a paper on the challenge of the Messianic Jewish movement to Lumen Gentium. Now, you all know Lumen Gentium is the main document, Second Vatican Council, speaking about what is the church. And when Mark was finished with his work, with his speech, it was very silent in the room. And Cardinal Schönborn was quite full of courage, and he said, silent but pretty clear, he said, wow, I think we have to really calculate things anew. He didn't say what we believe is wrong. He just said we have to calculate things anew. Because viewing the whole truth of Catholic tradition, which is holy, and we all believe in it, but no, we have to review it with the Hebrew mindset, with this Messianic Jewish Hebrew mindset. And what comes out of it? No condemnation, brothers and sisters, just glory, because we will see the great grace of God even in a deeper and more brighter light. Amen.